Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. Today I want to share some of my thoughts on Ukraine war as well as the current world financial crisis. Okay, the hyperinflation in US is something I want to touch point first. As you know, currently US is experiencing hyperinflation. It's above 7 points since I think this is the biggest inflation crisis ever since from Nixon's time. I think while US people stand puzzled at gas station, beholding the high oil or high petrol price, they are worrying how to pay the next bill, because we know, I think most of Chinese people know, educated Chinese people know, common US people, most of them, 40% of US working class people live from paycheck to paycheck. They don't even have more than 2K in their saving account. So that's why the inflation hits so hard on the common working class people. Why? Because by absorbing the high living cost, the higher grocer price, higher oil price, everything gets more and more expensive. They have to lower down their living standard if their pay is not going to catch up with the inflation. And it's unlikely there is any pay hike substantial enough to offset inflation. So this make me wondering why hardworking people have to suffer. Why, while those billionaires, those financial capitalists in Wall Street are making tons and tons and tons of money from the stock market, from whatever those exotic financial products, or from their so-called investments, those people who really produce things, who really do the service line, who really front the hospitals, work in the farm or work in the factories, their living standard dropped. People who produce nothing get rich and rich every passing day. Why? If you like myself, if you like me, who are Leninists, who believe in Marxist theory, you will not fail to understand this is how the capitalism system works. It only benefits those who are on the top. It only benefits the capitalists. They don't have to do anything. I think all their interest is to make money by doing nothing. They have the connections, they have the capital, and they can effectively manipulate the market to serve their interest. Look how the owner of Amazon is earning, right? Literally, he makes millions of dollars every hour. Is it justified? We all have to ask ourselves, who made the Amazon possible? Who is doing the delivery for Amazon? Who is doing the stocking for Amazon? And who are the people produced the colossal amount of products which are being sold in Amazon? It's us. It's the working people. And the reality is, the people who make all this happen, they are suffering. Only a tiny minority, less than 1%, are benefiting from this. This is insane. Okay, let me move on to Ukraine war. Do you common people who really cares about what's happening in Ukraine, if it's hypocrisy? Because normal people have enough to worry about in their own routine. They worry about their kids' education. They worry about if they can keep the job next year. They worry about their retirement. All sorts of things are much more real, are much more pressing than what is happening in Ukraine. So cut the crap. We care about Ukrainian people, all this kind of stuff. No, it's just an excuse. It's just a story made up by those who really benefited from this bloody war. And who are they? Again, they're the same group of people. The capitalists, the financial capitalists, the manufacturing capitalists, who control the military industrial complex, the warmongering machine in the United States. They want to sell more weapons to Ukraine, to European countries, so they can make money, enrich them at the expense of Ukrainian people's blood. And of course, the blood of Russian soldiers. So this war is absolutely unnecessary. And we have to ask why it happened in the first place. Since 2014, the United States government has been pumping up the anti-Russian propaganda in Ukraine. They actively support the new fascist organization like Azov battalions in Ukraine. Those neo-Nazis organizations, they committed and they are committing horrendous atrocities to Russian minorities in Ukraine. And as a result, as a response, Putin sent the Russian troops to demilitarize Ukraine, to denazify Ukraine. Else, there will be ethnic genocide to Russian people in Ukraine. I'm wondering why there's no coverage, there's no reports, there's no stories, those horrible stories reported by the Western media. Why? Because those mainstream media like BBC, CNN, Fox News, they are owned and operated mostly by Jewish people. A tiny group of those well-connected capitalists, they control the media machine, and they abuse their power in the medium to effectively silence the voice from Russia's side. What we are seeing from the mainstream media is a censored, twisted, biased perspective of what is happening in Ukraine and what has been happening in Ukraine. You never hear the story from the other side, from the Russian side. It's all from the Ukraine government. And this government, people in their right mind will not believe Zelensky is independently leading Ukrainian government. Any sensible people will agree with me that he is just a puppet of the United States. He acts in the interest of United States instead of Ukrainian people. He listens and obeys the order from Biden. So how can you expect a person like him can navigate Ukraine from this tricky situation? Ukraine is strategically located between the east and west. East as from Russia and west as from NATO. Russia has made it clear NATO expansion into Ukraine will be an existential threat to Russia. Putin has made it clear back in 2014. And Zelensky, I think, is just a clown. He is just doing the act. Whatever the moves, whatever the concession Ukrainian government can promise to Russia's side, all have to be agreed by the United States. So it is not a war between Ukraine and to Russia. It is actually a proxy war. It is a proxy war between Russia and the entire West, NATO plus the United States. If you understand this, you can predict what will be the outcome of this war. There will be a stalemate for a few months, and things will slowly settle down. An agreement will be reached between both sides, between Russia and the West. Most likely, Ukraine will be divided into two parts, while most of the eastern side ceded to Russia, and the west side will remain as an independent, neutral Ukraine. However, until the strength is exhausted on both sides, because both Russia and the United States and the NATO, they have the strength, they have the reserve and the resource to continue this fight as of now. Because whatever happens on the battlefield will determine how much they will gain from the ultimate negotiation and agreement. So both sides are not exhausted yet. We will see this bloody war being fought for months to come. The most tragic part is that Ukrainian people have no say in all this. They are absorbing they are the pure expenses of this great power conflict in Europe. That's very sad. And by no means I'm supporting Putin. I'm a Putin supporter. On this Ukraine war, I'm in for the Putin side. I think he have reason. He have good reasons, and this action is justified. However, I do not agree with every of his policies. Putin is not an imperialist, but he is a reactionist. He is a reactionist to the communism, to the socialism. He criticized Soviet Union for breaking up the once great Russian Empire. However, he failed to realize it is Soviet Union which he blamed that laid the foundation of what makes Russian a great power today. Soviet Union industrialized Russia. Soviet Union left to Russia a great industrial and military asset. It is only with all this and together and colossal arsenal of nuclear weapons. With all this, so most of his strengths were actually made by Soviet Union, by the great Soviet people. Now we have to remember, Soviet Union is not an abstract concept. It embodies a great people, Soviet people, under the flag of hammer and sickle. 200 million people worked cohesively. They made astounding achievements in all the fields, not only the industry, but also the arts, sports, literature, everything. It's amazing. And why? And what is the catalyst that converted a backward Russian Empire into such a superpower? It is communism. It is the belief in communism. It is the socialist regime which made all this possible. Unfortunately, all this is now lost due to some treasonous elites in the party apparatus. They broke up the system from top. That's which led to the collapse of USSR. So Putin is wrong. He should not criticize Soviet Union. It is Soviet Union's achievements laid him the foundation of Russia's power today. Okay, there's another point I want to discuss. That is the sanction from the Western side. As you see, all those sanctions I predicted will not destroy Russia. See, what is happening now proved my prediction. Now, Russian people, they see the true face of those so-called Western democratic countries. They know that the only way out, the only way to defend Russia is to fight this war to the very end, with all their might, with all their resource, and with all their support. If they lost the war in Ukraine, the Western country will continue to push. They will not alleviate the sanctions. They will not loosen the pressure on the Russian side. Instead, they will double down because they think you are weak. And this is what the West has been doing all along. As long as you are weak, as long as you lost in the war, they will continue to pressure you, press you. So now they have no way. Now there's no alternative. So, and that's why we can see the support rate for Putin is instead of falling, it is climbing. Putin is getting more and more popular with Russian people every passing day. See how the Western sanction achieved exactly the opposite result.